Fourth graders, welcome back to your TV classroom.
How are you today? Good? We should check in with our zones.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
One zone check-in coming right up.
Maybe. There it
There
is.
it is.
Yeah.
How you doing, friends? What zone are you in? What's your brain in? What's your body in? How are your emotions? Mr. Kevin, how you doing this afternoon?
Well, let's see. Now that I found the right button on the control panel, Mr. Kevin's doing really well. It's a green zone kind of day for me. And how about you, teachers?
Well, I was in the green zone, but now I'm in the yellow zone because I'm kind of panicking because I forgot to write some important information on my input chart, but I know that Miss Oslin can help me. So I'm grateful I have Miss Oslin here.
Oh,
And I'm blue.
oh no.
It's a yellowy blue kind of day, which should equal green, but it doesn't. So we're just going to roll with it.
We're glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here. And we're going to do things, and we're going to do them well.
We're going to do some things.
Fourth graders, some days are hard. They're hard for adults,
Yep.
too. Today's one of those days, and that's okay.
Yep.
How are you today, Miss Oslin?
I'm in the green zone. I'm
Great.
good.
I'm
Yeah.
glad that you two are in the green zone. It helps, when other people around you are in the green zone, kind of helps boost you into the green zone a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Easy
helpful.
peasy, lemon squeezy.
Yes. Or limey squeezy, because limes are green.
Green.
Green. Oh,
It doesn't rhyme, though, so
Smart.
that's not as fun.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, easy squeezy, limey squimey.
That would rhyme. I don't
Limey
know what
slimy?
squimey is, but that's fine.
Limey slimy.
Lime slime. That'd be fun. Focus, everyone. Focus. All right, friends. Let's check in with our 3 personal standards.
Today and every day, we agree when we come together to
Show respect, make good decisions, solve problems. And one of the ways we show respect every single day is by honoring the indigenous lands and people of the Pacific Northwest.
And we do that by taking a moment to look outside the window. Look at the sky, the trees, your surroundings. Our physical space stands on the unceded land of the Coast Salish people. We acknowledge the Coast Salish community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. We make this acknowledgement as part of our work to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism and white supremacy.
And we've started to kind of learn why we're doing this by learning about the history of these people and the history of the land we're on now.
Yes.
And when I was in school, I didn't learn this. We just learned about the settlers' viewpoint and that we migrated over and immigrated from Europe. And I learned that part, but I did not learn the part about the people who were already here.
Right.
And so I am really enjoying learning about it because once we know better, we can do better. Mr. Kevin?
And I wanted to show you something. Let me point something out to you. I'm going to bring this picture up again. This beautiful shot. This is downtown Tacoma. Just beyond, there's the foothills of the Cascades and that valley right below. That is the ancestral home of the Puyallup Nation. And the Puyallup River flows right to Tacoma and right into Commencement Bay and the Salish Sea. So this is a beautiful and I would say sacred place.
Yes, I agree with you.
So we thank our Puyallup Nation neighbors for where we live.
Yes.
Yes.
And as we're learning the things they taught us so that we could have industry and grow.
Yeah, support our economy.
All right.
So let's get started with that. We're going to continue thinking about how do the land features of regions in Washington change and shape our state history?
So how did the land force us into the industries and things we have? Because it did. You don't see sheep farming here.
No.
And so what is it about this area and the regions and the land that caused us to have the industries that we do?
Yes. And we spent our last lesson thinking about the coastal people.
We did.
Today, we're going to learn about a different group of Native
Plateau
Americans.
people.
Yes.
I'm going to write that right here.
We're gonna
'cause I
start
don't
by-
have it.
Looking at some pictures.
Yes.
Do you see that timestamp or date stamp? March 9th, 1910.
Look at that. See that river? No, Mr. Kevin was talking about. I'm not
Is
sure
that the
where this
Puyallup?
is taken. I don't know if this is the Puyallup, the Columbia, or the Snake, but it looks like the Puyallup to me going through that river valley. You know what I'm talking about? In between here and Puyallup. It kind of looks like that area to me.
Although I do see teachers on the little hillside on the lower left,
Yeah.
right above where it says the date. Those look like to me the kind of the scrub brush that grows in eastern Washington.
Oh.
You're right. So wait, we're talking about the Plateau people.
Mm-hmm.
So this must be over in eastern Washington. Oh.
Should we look at another picture?
Well, that's interesting. It's like really flat on the top.
It is, and it's very large.
Huge. And then it just like drops down into a canyon.
And maybe on the bottom left, is that a little bit of a river?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. You know, I have family that lives in Ephrata, which is on the Columbia Plateau. And we drive over the Vantage Bridge, which drives over the canyon that the Columbia River has made. And I see these plateaus.
Yes.
They're beautiful.
Yes.
Water, plateaus. You know what I'm noticing? No cedar trees.
No cedar trees, which we learned really enabled
Impacted, yeah.
the coastal people.
Makes me wonder. Beautiful. They do have water, though.
They do. It's not an ocean, though.
No, but
It's
it is water
rivers,
that
but
flows
there's-
from into the ocean. So interesting.
It
What do
is.
you notice at home? What are you thinking? What are you changing about what you thought you knew?
Ooh, yeah.
Keep these pictures in mind as we move on with our lesson today.
Let's review some of our big social studies words.
Sounds great.
We learned that a plateau is a high-level area of land.
Yep. And we learned that a region is the area common with the climate and certain features.
And a lowland is land that is low in respect to the surrounding country or land.
Right. So like the lowlands of Western Washington are much lower than the plateaus on the eastern side. Ooh, industry. Turning those raw materials into a finished product.
Yes.
But in order to get raw materials, you have to have
Resources, which
What-
is an area's wealth and means of producing wealth.
So we take those resources, create an industry, and now, boom, we have an economy.
What's an economy?
It is the system of how money is made and used.
Interesting.
So we take the resources, we turn them into a good. We then sell that good and make money.
All right. I think that's more of mistakes that I made.
That's all right. Let's do are these Washington regions? And I think we'll do the coastal region and the Columbia Plateau.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Is this the coastal region?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the coastal region?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know?
There are rainforests.
How do you know?
There are sandy beaches.
Give me some examples.
The Quinault and Hoh rainforest.
Give me some examples.
Long Beach, Washington.
Is this the Columbia Plateau?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the Columbia Plateau?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know?
There are grassy farmlands.
How do you know?
There are hills and rivers.
Give me an example.
Wheat farms.
Give me an example.
The Yakima River.
Ooh.
Remember when Mr. Oslin lost his glasses in the Yakima River?
I have a story about wheat farms. It's
Tell
actually,
us.
hey, I know someone in Ellensburg, which is near the Columbia Plateau in one of the valleys. They have one of the largest alfalfa farms in Washington State.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And they supply alfalfa to the United Kingdom for their horses in the royal horse family.
Really?
Yep.
That's amazing.
You
Pretty
know
cool,
what I
huh?
have to say about that? Hey.
Mr. Kevin, you're on a roll today.
You are.
All right. So we spent some time last lesson learning
We did.
about the coastal people.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we know within each tribe or family, things vary and are different.
These are the Plateau
Plateau
people. These are the people that live on the western, the eastern side. Look at these foggy glasses. Oh my. The eastern side of the United States.
Washington.
No, Washington. Friends, like I said, I'm blue. Mr. Kevin, that's not going to work. Oh, my. Can you tell us the afternoon, friends? That you're going to have to keep going.
We're getting there. We're getting there, aren't we?
Closer.
Closer, closer, and good, right there. That's good.
Okay.
Love it.
That's good. So last time we started with shelter. I think we should start with shelter again.
I agree.
Okay. I did learn that they did sometimes use longhouses.
Yep. Which were made of cedar planks and could be moved.
Right. But more than likely, this was one of the really common types of homes that they used in the plateaus.
It's called a pit
House. They lay different layers of animal skins and blankets and woven mats over the top to protect the pit house, which is made of dirt from the rain and snow and those types of things, so it doesn't turn into a muddy mess. And they have a hole in the top, and they climb in, and it's nice and warm in there, or nice and cool in the summer.
Very nice.
So that was one type of shelter, but that type of shelter doesn't move very well.
Does not.
A lot of time to move it. And what I learned about the plateau people is they're what we call nomadic. They move around to find their food.
Okay.
So at first they had the longhouses, but then in the 1700s, they met the Plains tribes because if you think about the geography, we've got the coastal people, and then we've got this big Columbia Plateau, and then we have the Plains tribes. And it was almost like a freeway where people from the coast would travel through the Columbia Plateau to get to the plains, and people from the plains would travel through the Columbia Plateau to get to the coast. And so they got to learn from both groups of tribes the things that would help them survive and grow. And one of the things they learned about was a teepee. And a teepee is a sticked structure, and then they drape it with different animal hides, same kind of like with the pit house. They made them all different ways to make it so that they could be safe and warm. And then they would have fire on the inside to keep warm, and it was called a teepee. And they learned about these from the Plains people. Pretty cool, huh?
Very neat.
So their land allowed them to trade ideas and items with other groups of people, and they got to do it with the most amount because everyone traveled through where they
them.
lived.
Which then impacted
Their
Washington
history.
State history.
For sure. Pretty cool, huh? So then I wonder how they traveled around.
Yeah, that was my thinking.
If they were traveling all the time. The tribes moved to find food based on the season. So different seasons, they would move to different parts of the Columbia Plateau to help them be able to eat and survive during that season. One of the things they ate a lot are called camas roots, and they kind of look like potatoes, and then they have this beautiful flower that's on top.
Camas root.
Yep, and they would dig them up, and they would cook them and dry them and eat them. Pretty cool, huh? So if they're moving around, how did they do it? Well, at first, they used their feet. They would pack things on their back. They made little sleds that they would like strap to them and carry, like if they had little kids and things to travel around with. But then in 1730, something happened with the Plains tribes. Do you know what happened?
I don't.
They traded.
Oh.
They traded some of their goods, like their fish, their deer skins, some of their food.
A camas root, maybe?
They traded it for horses. And that changed their transportation, and it changed their ability to move to places to be able to take care of their needs. Because horses can travel a lot easier than just a person. So they had their horses, and what they would do is they would pack their horses. Here's a person kind of looking at the horse. They would pack up their horses with all of the goods and things they wanted to travel and move with. And they also made these sleds that were attached to the horses with rods. They were these sleds, and on the sleds they could pack up all the things they needed. Their teepees, any food they had, any extra clothing they had, and the horse would then carry that to the next location, and they could either ride the horse or walk with the horse to the next location.
That's a lot more efficient.
Much more efficient. So this trading, these Plains people coming through the plateau, shaped the history
Yes.
of the Plateau people because they no longer had to just walk and carry. They could now be more efficient in how they moved.
Which then gave them access to different types of resources.
Yes.
Which impacted what kind of industry they had, which boosted their economy.
Let's talk about this land. We know that the plateau is really high. We also know that because it's really high, there's also lots of lows where the rivers are.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Low rivers. Some of them were up high and then fell off like that waterfall.
The waterfall.
We also know that it was hot in the summer
Not a lot of shade.
and cold in the winter. Brr. We knew that the high parts were flat.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
The rivers were full of fish to eat. And there were riverbanks. And along the riverbanks, there were lots of different plants that they could use to create things. And one of those things that they used were called the tuck reeds.
Tuck reeds.
That is reeds that they would use to weave baskets and
Okay.
things to wear. Unless someone from the coastal people was traveling through and brought cedar to trade.
Oh.
So you do find some things made of cedar in the Plateau people, even though there's no cedar trees in the Plateau. There might be a few, but it's not like in the coastal regions.
Right.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
Very cool.
And along this river, they were able to take these big, long baskets, put them in the water, and fish.
Oh, that's how they got the fish.
That's how they got the fish. I'm not very good at drawing people. It's just a little outline of a person. But they're fishing. So the land resources gave them fish, gave them camas root, gave them water,
Shelter.
gave them shelter because they were able to use the mud and the animals off the land. It also gave them food like deer. So habitat for deer. So they would eat the deer. And what would they do with the skin of the deer? What I think I know about Native Americans is if they kill an animal, they use all of the
The whole
animal.
thing.
They
Nothing
don't waste,
goes to waste.
They don't waste any of it.
They honor the entire creature.
And they honor the creature for giving them nourishment and allowing them to survive. They're very honoring that way. Well, clothing.
Yes.
So what they did was they would scrape the deer hide off the deer and tan it. And that means they laid it out in the sun for a long time before it got kind of rough and stiff and really strong. And then they would use that to create clothing, to create blankets for shelter, to create blankets to put on these, what's the word I'm looking
The
for?
cart?
The cart thing that they make for the back, the sled. They would use it to create all sorts of things.
And they also could probably then use that to trade.
They sure did use that to trade. Here's an idea of kind of, it's just like a little tree, and the deer hide's like laid out to dry and tan. Now, my dad used to hunt, and he took it to a place to get it tanned, and then he would trade it for like gloves, work gloves, to keep his hands safe and protected, and all sorts of other things. Pretty cool, right? This is where I'm going to need your help, Miss Oslin.
Yes.
I forgot to write down the contact with the settlers, and it's super, super, super important.
Yes.
So they also had contact with settlers. What happened?
Well, very similar to what we learned about the coastal people is that the settlers brought illness and disease with them.
Influenza.
Influenza and smallpox.
People died. What else happened?
It was in 1850, and I remember that because it was 3 years prior to the 1853 treaty, that there was the donation.
It's on there, on the little thing right there in front of you. Can you read it?
Donation Act. And this allowed any American could get land from the Plateau people.
So they could just come and take it?
They could. And then the Plateau people were moved to the Spokane Reservation.
Wait, say that again?
The Plateau people were moved to the Spokane Reservation.
So they lived on land.
Mm-hmm.
Settlers came,
Yes. Took the land,
took the land, and
gave it away.
Gave it away to any American that wanted it.
Mhm. Not Native Americans.
No, and that's why we had the Western migration.
Mm-hmm.
And they took the people who were living on that land and said, here, you can live in this boundary only.
Yes.
We're going to use the rest of your land. Thanks.
Yes.
That makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe someone feels differently about that. But
Yeah.
for me, it makes me not feel good inside.
Mm-hmm. So it's important for us to learn about these things, right?
And did that shape our history?
Oh, yes.
Big time.
Because the settlers were my ancestors,
Mine too.
right? So that's how my family got here.
Mine too.
Mm-hmm.
So, the land for sure influenced the history of Washington.
Yes.
It influenced their ability to trade,
Yes.
to survive, to teach others, and for others to teach them, and to have industry together before the settlers arrived.
Mm-hmm.
When the settlers arrived, they learned from them, and then they put them on a reservation
Yes.
and took their land
Mm-hmm.
and their industries
Mm-hmm.
and made money.
Yes.
Got it. Okay,
Which is thinking about our current Washington state economy.
right? How did it get here? So now that we know better, we have to do better.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to think about moving forward, what decisions do we want to make? And you, as fourth graders, who are not that far from being adults, you're not adults yet, but thinking about even as fourth graders, what is it that you want to do better than what the people before us did?
Mm-hmm. And it starts with acknowledging and
Understanding.
learning.
It starts there. You don't want to act right away because then you might,
Oh, I don't
what
know
happens
enough.
is if you act before you know,
Yeah.
you can do things that are just as bad.
Yeah. I don't know enough to do.
I don't know enough either. I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's take a look at some pictures.
Yes.
And see if we can see anything. Oh, guess what that is, friends? Hummus root.
Camas root. That is a beautiful flower.
It is, and underneath is a root, like a potato that they eat. Did you know potatoes grow underground, friends? Potatoes are roots of a plant.
Root vegetables.
It's a tuber.
Same with carrots.
And sweet potatoes.
Oh,
And-
I have a question on that previous slide.
yes.
Yes, Mr. Kevin.
Could you spell that?
C-A-M-O-S.
Oh, okay.
A-S.
O-A-S.
C-A-M-A-S.
Camas.
See, camas. Okay.
Root.
Your masks are causing some of the syllables to
Yes.
disappear.
We need to speak
Camas
very clearly.
roots. Did that help?
That helps.
Okay. Ooh. This is a picture of people from the Plateau region drying salmon on salmon drying racks, just like the coastal people did.
Yep.
I wonder if they learned it from them.
Is
I
that
wonder who learned it from who.
Oh. Do I see a longhouse there
You
in the
do.
the background there?
Yep.
Mhm.
You do see a longhouse. And I see trees kind of chopped down, so they must have lived on the edge. It looks like they live on the edge of the
Yeah.
Columbia Plateau where they kind of mix, kind of where Ellensburg is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see all those round things? There's the roots. They're like potatoes.
Camas bulbs.
And you can dry them or cook them,
That's a lot of food.
right? You gotta have a lot of people to feed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this one's interesting.
It is.
Friends, do you notice anything interesting about this picture? The person's wearing jeans. What does that tell you? Current day.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fishing. They're using
A net, like,
just like the one they used in the past, but with current day materials. So they're still using the same technology, just with some materials that they can get their hands on that might be a little bit sturdier and last longer. But they're still using the practice of fishing in a humane way.
yes. I notice, does that person have like a harness around
They
their
do.
waist, and so then they're attached to the side of the
They are.
hill there. So
And
then,
that platform.
yes.
So they don't fall into that raging river because they would die if that happened.
Yes. Interesting use
Intelligent.
of technology.
Very. This is an interesting picture.
It is.
Because in the background, I see people that do not look like indigenous people. They look like settlers. And then I read underneath, and it says that they're modeling traditional dress. So this isn't actually a time where they were wearing traditional dress. They were asked to put it on so someone could take a picture of it. So they were being treated more as like a museum than as a group of people. People were coming, it was an industry to come and watch the people, the indigenous people.
And this is probably where that stereotype started from, where when we think of Native Americans, we think of the traditional dress.
Correct.
And then we make assumptions that that's what they wear all the time.
Which may or may not be true. Because I don't wear my traditional dress all the time.
No.
Very interesting.
Very.
And I noticed, can you go back?
Yeah.
That hat that person is wearing is not something that I've seen in any of the research I've done. So I think that maybe they had traded for that hat. Like I'm looking at a couple of the things, like some of the plaid blankets and things
Okay.
look more like what settlers would have. So I have a wondering about, is this all their traditional dress or is some of it for traded?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So it's kind of a mixture of traditional dress and traded items all kind of put together.
Looks like a cowboy hat.
It sure does, doesn't it? Oh, these are some moccasins. Some shoes
Yeah.
made with deer hide. Look how soft those look.
They're decorated too.
They are. Oh, they had
the
such
art.
art. The art that the people of the coastal tribe and the Plateau people, like, the art was amazing. They were so talented in being able to create things with patterns and art. It's beautiful. It's a longhouse.
Yeah.
You can see how it could be taken apart and put like on a big, huge,
Sled.
what's the word? Sled. That's what I'm looking for. A big sled, and drug behind a horse to move. It would be a lot of work, though. I see why they liked the teepees better.
It also looks like it would fit a lot of people. So you would have a lot of help, but still,
But
that
still,
would
it would be hard.
be a lot of work.
And this is a pit house.
Yes, so neat.
Yeah.
Looks like a woven mat on top.
So they've put all of those things on top to protect the pit house from the elements and to keep the heat in.
In a nice shady spot.
There's a teepee. So think about the long house or the pit house and think about the teepee. If you're nomadic and you're moving a lot, that's going to be a lot easier to pack up and move quickly than the other ones are. I wonder too, like, did they have like one or two longhouses for the whole tribe of people and then everyone else had teepees? Like, I wonder if like they had a mixture within a single tribe. I don't know. I'm curious. This is a picture of a woman preparing food on a stone slab. Was photographed in 1923. Amazing. In just normal clothes.
Okay.
So,
Learned a lot this lesson.
we sure have. So, what do you think you know about Washington history now?
What do you want to
And
know?
how it kind of began?
What questions came up?
Right. What do you want to know?
Has any of your thinking changed?
Ooh, great question. So what was our essential question again, Miss Oslin?
How do the land features of
yes.
regions of Washington change and shape our state history?
Well, I think we've learned a lot of that.
Oh, yes.
So fifth graders, your job is to write.
Fourth graders.
I meant fourth graders. See, I'm already calling you fifth graders. It's
Not yet,
One
Mrs.
of those
Wally,
days.
not yet.
I know, not yet. I know you want to be fifth graders. So
Yes.
You're close.
So your job is to think about how does the geography, how do the land features or forms of the Plateau people
Change and shape
change and
history.
shape the state history.
Thinking about how it was kind of a freeway for people to be moving because it was so flat, it was easy to travel across. How did that change and shape our history?
Think specifically about the resources and the industry and the economy.
That we've learned from them and then adopted from them.
And that's what you're going to post about on Flipgrid.
Yep.
In any way that feels good to you.
Right? It doesn't have to be a paper.
No.
It can be a song. It can be a poem. It can be art. It can be a skit. You can just tell us. It can be what we call a monologue where you just talk about it.
Yes.
But we really want to hear from you.
Now, if you're not comfortable on Flipgrid, that is okay. Mr. Kevin's going to tell you 2 other ways that you can share with us your thinking.
Easy peasy, 4th graders. Just email us at tvclassroom@tacoma.k12.wa.us. Or why don't you drop us a letter in the mail? Send it to our beautiful downtown headquarters here of TV Classroom at 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Affirmation time. I love this part.
I like positive self-talk.
Me too. Makes me feel good.
I liked the one that we used, was it with 3rd grade? I'm not sure if I remember which grade level, but where we talked about how when we know better, we do better.
Yep.
So reminding ourselves that I am aware.
I love it.
I'm aware of what's around me. I'm aware of whose it is.
I'm aware of what impacts I have, whether I mean to or not. Because sometimes what you intend impacts differently. And the people receiving it, it impacts them in a negative way. We were talking about that with some stuff with my family. Like they say something, they don't mean it, but it falls on me and impacts me differently than what they meant. So we have to talk about it.
And so just because that's not what you meant, doesn't mean that you're not responsible for the impact.
That's correct. And if it impacts in a way that you didn't mean, you just got to fix it and say you're sorry. Yeah.
So I am aware. So I'll take a deep breath together and say our affirmation.
I am aware.
Excellent job today, 4th graders. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you back here next time in our TV classroom.
See you later. I'll see you on Flipgrid. Bye.
Astronaut cadets. This is your commanding officer reporting to you from Space Command. Today, we will be traveling to and exploring the moon. We call this mission Space Jump. Here's how it works. Number 1, complete each of the 4 levels by reaching the star coin. 2, when you see me run, you run. 3, when you encounter an object coming towards you, you will need to either dodge, duck, dip, dive, or dodge in order to safely complete each level. And number 4, have fun. Good luck, cadets! Let's run.